You can pick up these things for absolutely no money, left behind by people that don't know any better. Welcome back to Stjernholm Reviews, the independent hi-fi channel from the AV therapy consultant himself. This is the first video in the new living room studio that I will cover in more detail technically in future videos. Technics has brought out a brand new version of their SL-G700 Grand Class SACD player/streamer DAC dubbed the Mark II. That might be a good thing, as I found the Mark I to be pretty annoying and sometimes slow to use. But time passes and innovators improve their stuff. I'm therefore excited in the hope that the Mark II has improved on some of the shortcomings I found in the Mark I and finally fulfill the promise of becoming the definitive audio source that the Mark II really has the potential to be. Did you know that only 15% of the silverback audiophiles watching Stjernholm Reviews are clever enough to figure out how to subscribe to the channel? I mean, are we really that old, guys? It's even free, and nobody will spam you with anything.
You gotta rise above it. You gotta harness in the good energy, block out the bad. Harness, energy, block, bad. Feel the flow, happy. Feel it. It's circular.
Being logged into YouTube gives you so many advantages. Tap, 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 and take part. By being both a SACD disc spinner, a streamer, and a high-specification DAC, the SL-G700 Mark II has the potential to become the only digital source you will ever need. It plays internet radio, it plays podcasts, streams from media servers, play audio via Bluetooth from any random Bluetooth source. It streams from popular services like Tidal and Spotify and Deezer and Cobus and Amazon Music. You also get Apple AirPlay 2 plus Chromecast. You can even pop in a thumb drive in the front and play files directly, or use the new USB-B port for connecting a computer or other USB-enabled audio devices. With the USB-B port, you have support for playback of the highest resolution PCM and DSD audio up to 11.2 MHz. The machine also does full MQA decoding, including MQA CDs. How cool is that? Up to 352 kHz sample rate coming out of an ordinary CD. Wow. Playback of files with 32-bit resolution is also possible. So no doubt that this is an extremely high-spec player. When Technics reintroduced themselves to the market in 2014, they set out to prove that they could deliver the definitive naturalistic and purest sound experience. For this, a new standard was set with the all-digital state-of-the-art reference class components containing technology not seen before in the hi-fi space. These technologies have also found their way into the SL-G700 Mark II with the goal of delivering the purest sound possible, so pure that it actually felt like ultra high-end analog in my experience of the complete R1 system. During the pandemic shutdown, I was able to loan that system for extended period of time, and I like it a lot. Previously here on the channel, I have reviewed both the R1000 integrated amplifier and the SU-G700 Mark II integrated amplifier, and confirmed that they possesses the same kind of qualities. So go check them out if that kind of sound profile appeals to your liking. Direct links to those reviews you can find in the description of this video. This new Mark II player take technical ideas from all the other products, including battery-powered digital clock, high-speed multi-stage power supplies, low voltage regulators, and introduces this current injection active noise cancelling circuit so Japanese it is, that aims at removing any distortion and also adds coherent processing in the DA converter for PCM signals to minimize amplitude and phase deviations that can occur throughout the DA conversion process using this new proprietary digital signal processing. DSD signals such as Super Audio CD are input directly to the DAC without performing this processing. Naturally, it is all things that are in the very limit and theoretical. Thus, to me, it really only matters if the technology adds to the music experience. This thing is built like a tank. It weighs a good 25 pounds and uses the same design as the Mark I. The construction spares nothing in order to separate all the critical components of the device. The Mark II changes are, besides the USB-B port, found mostly on the inside, where the new clever active noise cancelling and power supply technology is taken from the R1000 reference class integrated amplifier. The DAC chips has also been changed from AKM to ESS chips in a dual configuration. I'm really not crazy about the placement of the buttons underneath the display, where your hand kind of gets in the way when using the buttons. And I really think that Technics should have used the Mark II opportunity to revise the design and user interface a bit. You end up using the remote or the app anyway, so the fiddly small buttons under the display might not matter to most. The design of the unit overall I find to be pretty sleek, but personally I would prefer the silver one. On paper, the Mark II is a brilliant idea if you want to enjoy CD and SACD and all the stuff that streaming has to offer. It can even take the role as a preamp, which it actually does very well with a smooth and secure action. The obvious annoyance will be using the multi-personality multi-knob for volume control, making you quickly move to the very functional and easy-to-use remote that is suitable for people in the reading glass age, with its well-sized and clear buttons. Using the 700 Mark II without the app works great for playing back SACDs and CDs. I simply love the solid feel of that CD mechanism and tray that reminds you that this is not a flimsy CD player you just picked up at the supermarket. Browsing files on media servers and attached thumb drives works great, even navigated directly on the little display using the remote or multi-knob thingy. And I also find the internet radio and podcast functionality really good for daily use once you have set up your favorites. It is also easy to connect via Spotify, Bluetooth, AirPlay 2 and Chromecast. At first, it can seem a bit weird that Tidal Connect is not directly implemented. Here, Technics has chosen to use direct login instead. That allows you to browse your Tidal directly on the device display and in the Technics Audio app. To be honest, it's actually not bad at all. I personally like very much to be able to avoid using glass screens when wanting to focus on enjoying music. I did not test Qobuz, Deezer and Amazon Music as I have no subscriptions there. The 700 also offers great connectivity, including balanced analog outputs that are used exclusively for the sound evaluation of the DAC. For the digital outputs, it's possible to limit the sample rate frequency if the connecting equipment does not support very high resolution digital input. The USB-A connection in the back can supply 1 amp of current, and that should be enough to power most bus-powered drives with no problems. On the immediate holes in the cheese list for me is the current lack of room-ready support, something that was actually promised in the first presentations of the 700 Mark II. The Scandinavian representative tells me that it will be added via a future firmware update in 2023 though. But I want to see it and hear it before I believe it. Another oddity is that the before-mentioned Tidal Connect is not supported, meaning that you can't use the Tidal app directly. Instead, you need to log into Tidal via the Technics Audio app to use Tidal, and it feels a bit inconsistent as Spotify Connect are supported, and it's actually possible to do both variations, even while also offering direct login like we see on devices like Blue Sound, Node, and Cocktail Audio for those who wants to use the Tidal app. Another thing I found to be a little hole in the cheese was that the player actually seems only to support FAT32 formatted thumb drives and USB drives. In 2023, a product like this should at least also support exFAT, which are free from all the old school constraints of FAT32. I mean, who would ever format a larger USB drive in FAT32, right? With all the limitations you have to file sizes and so on. At least I could not get the player to mount my little Samsung T3 SSD drive, even though it powered on fine. Like so many other hi-fi vendor apps, the app called Technics Audio also seems like a work in progress, and it's definitely not inspiring music exploration. It is pretty straightforward though, and to be totally fair, it does not promise to deliver anything other than the basics. I'm annoyed by unnecessary tabs in order to search and find stuff. I also miss the ability to set favorite folders or bookmarks to avoid browsing all the way back and forth every time you want a specific record on a media server. You can create favorites, but not for some media types. These can be used for recall via the Google Home, but I can honestly say that I'm not totally blown away by the attention to the user experience, but solid and stable and bug-free. On the output side, being a SACD player too, it is not possible to output DSD or higher sample rates than PCM 192 kHz due to copyright limitations. But with the sound of this thing, you would definitely want to use the DA anyway.
More on that later.
Basically, the focus seems concentrated on sound improvements with some enhancements to the speed, the format support and logic here and there in this second coming of the G700, the Mark II. Here's a little story. The reason for me to actually re-enter the world of hi-fi after decades in the professional audio world, working as an audio post-production professional and consultant in broadcast and film, it was actually the Technics R1 reference system. I have always appreciated free and natural sound since teenagehood, and here was a system that was amazingly clean and natural sounding. That's simply the Technics sound profile. Naturalistic, super clean, super smooth, to a degree of technical perfection measured in correctness that will appeal to the purists. While I have learned on my audiophile journey that music to me is much more than just being able to reproduce mathematical perfection, I think it is a good thing at the source level to represent the recorded material as purely as possible. Here in review land, for me at least, a really trustworthy source is a good thing. There are so many color options available in room tuning, amplifiers and speakers coming after the source, and I really like to start with the cleanest possible source. When I plugged in the Mark II, I quickly started an A/B listening session between the Mark II and the Oppo UDP 205 that has been a go-to DAC for me. Soon I realized that in its own right, Mark II must be the best DAC I've heard on this system so far. While you could be inclined to think that naturalistic and clean sound equals cold and analytical sound, nothing can be further from the truth here on my reference system, where I actually find the mid-range to be warm in the midst of all that purity. I'm not so sure about the bass though, due to this new listening environment after acoustic upgrades. I hear a fatter low mid-range and some massive deep bass notes that I'm not adapted to just yet. I still experiment with moving the speakers around and testing the effects of room correction. The most demanding recordings are delivered with a calm mid-range purity that almost makes it sound a class above the UDP 205 that suddenly feels a bit more edgy and unrefined in direct comparison. So I took out the SA-CD box and started playing CDs and SA-CDs. With Pink Floyd's The Wall on an early CD release, it revealed details I had not noticed before. The soundstage got even deeper and the recording sounded more dynamic than ever. Especially the details on the drums and the inside there was phenomenal. In the SA-CD department, I turned to Diana Krall, a Opus 3 test disc with great blues and jazz material, classical, and of course the award-winning Extreme 2L recording Lux, so dynamic that it's almost terrifying. I also sampled Bob Dylan on the Infidels SA-CD album, listened to Elton John and Mark Knopfler on the way too loud Shangri-La album, where I actually prefer the CD layer over the SA-CD layer, believe it or not. I also enjoyed Janet Jackson's late 90s album, The Velvet Rope. This is such an interesting production with great sound being portrayed so clear, crisp and punchy on the 700M2. After enjoying a bunch of CDs and SA-CDs, I switched to Roon, that in the lack of built-in Roon Ready support, was delivered via a Bluesound Node 2i connected to the coaxial input, resulting in excellent sound, listening to stuff like the 1963 Ella and Basie album over Bruno Mars that had me bring out my dancing top game during the 24K magic.
Now watch me break it down like look out.
Using the 700 directly with Tidal worked great too, with MQA decoding to the highest sample rates with tracks from the Sonic Snacks playlist. No matter what I threw at it, this machine simply reveals an extra thin layer of details and insight. So much resolution to be heard. It also means that it can be a bit ruthlessly revealing, and this is where you need to decide how much of a purist you really are. To get a second perspective, I handed over the G700M2 to Mr. CD Man himself, my buddy Karsten. The past couple of years, this guy has been through a huge number of CD players, and he still despises everything but CDs and even burns CDs in order to mix up his music. No streaming for this man, period. Yeah. Yes.
Yes. Karsten, he is a rock fanatic.
And on his system using Dyne Audio Special 40 speakers driven by a audio analog Puccini Anniversary integrated amplifier, he described the 700M2 as sounding heartless and playing without enthusiasm for his blues, rock and pop selections in comparison with his new Marantz SA-CD 30N, he says adds much more character and tone to the signal. So I A/B listened with my premium reference player, the Marantz SA-7001KI edition, and hands down, to me, the Technics delivered a much more visceral performance in comparison with this kind of laid-back Marantz. I'm really glad that Karsten he took the time to add his perspective here, as it simply showcases something really important: to just listen. You might not even know what your sound is. Karsten here wants bigger balls, while I just want a truthful representation with as little as possible changed on the output. I spent most of my listening time with quality recordings, while Karsten is more like,
food is fuel. You get picky about what you put in the tank, your engine is gonna die. Now shut up and eat your garbage.
I also gave the headphone output a spin, and I was positively surprised by the sound on a pair of Sennheiser HD800s with critical choir music and classical music playing. You really get all that resolution delivered, and it just feels extremely naturalistic and pure. I'm not actually sure that this headphone output will drive the heaviest of headphones though, but you really get all that resolution delivered. This €3,200 player is a no-compromise sound source as well as SA-CD player with decent software, allowing you to do many things without the use of a second screen. The current lack of Roon Ready support is the only thing missing for this player to be the definitive stereo source. And the total value of the product I rate as being very high, as it not only brings flawless, perfected digital sound that really are the closest to absolute perfection you can get in this price class, but also will do a good job as a preamp in case you want to make it the center of your system. The quality feel is high throughout, making the total package stand out as a well-prioritized one. Some users will also love the ability to integrate with Google Assistant and recall favorites, and I really dig the ability to browse both Tidal, media servers, podcasts, and internet radio directly on the device. For anyone looking for a very pure source, neither adding or subtracting anything, with tons of resolution while delivering a perfect sound image, I don't think there's much reason to look anywhere else, to be honest. If a strong sound color personality is what you're looking for, you should definitely try other things and look elsewhere. This is a purist machine, delivering all the bits perfected, just waiting for that room-ready support to become the perfect all-in-one stereo source. Now stand by for the pros, the cons, and the review score, and remember to tap those like and subscribe buttons to step out of the dark. Until next time, join the intelligent conversation in the comments, and be sure to check out the latest hi-fi news and quick reviews episode that covers a lot of ground for the busy audiophile, or watch other reviews here on the channel. Until then, remember to just listen.